Well, countries across the globe have been hit by the COVID-19 virus, but there's also this untold story about gender-based violence and also how women are taking a knock during this economic crunch that has been led by COVID-19. For now, let's go to Mandisa, who is the director of Rise Up Against Violence. Mandisa Khanyile, good evening and welcome to this special broadcast. First of all, we just played an insert now looking at a number of countries which have recorded an increase in gender-based violence. I just quickly want to get your take on what it is that could have led to this.
Well, there's a global trend to see an increase in GBV incidences, specifically domestic violence. And the reason behind that is because people are trapped in their homes with their perpetrators. So the same person who would have usually gone out to a bar or a shebeen is now sitting here taking out all of their problems on you. They are obviously under great emotional stress. And then so you see a lot of situations whereby women are not able to leave the household. Women don't have access to their usual support mechanisms like family, friends, etc. And over and above that, it's just a hostile situation all around. So you are seeing quite an increase in domestic violence cases, and they are getting a lot more violent as well in their nature. You also, in South Africa in particular, according to the latest reports by the police, seeing an increase in domestic rape cases. So what do I mean by that? I mean rape specifically in the household. So rape by an uncle, a father, a brother, someone who's within your intimate space versus you being raped on a street corner, etc. during this particular lockdown in South Africa. So it's a silent war on women's bodies. Over and above the coronavirus pandemic, we're also dealing with the issue of femicide and gender-based violence in particular around the world.
Yeah. And what is it that we can do to make sure that these acts of violence, especially against women, do not happen? Because now you have the situation that many countries indeed are under lockdown and regulations that need to be followed. What mechanisms are available for women?
Well, currently in our country, we have a domestic violence hotline and we also have the GBV command center. There are mechanisms that assist you to be able to get help directly to your door, but unfortunately that requires you to have a working phone. It requires you to not be in earshot of your perpetrator. Yeah. So that means if you're in a shack or a one-bedroom house, the person's going to hear you phoning and asking for help. As an organization, one of the interventions that we have is that we run a WhatsApp service where you send us specifically in the Gauteng area, your location, tell us where you are, and if you want help and if you want to be evacuated from your home. And we then come and fetch you with police services to be able to move you to a place of safety, be it a shelter, friends or family or wherever else you can move where you'll be safe from the perpetrator. A lot of the services don't give that option. So you find that women, even though they want to ask or seek help, don't actually have the mechanisms in place to do so. So it's really a flawed system, essentially, the kinds of help that we've availed to survivors of violence. What I ask for people to do is to constantly check on your loved ones, constantly check on your friends and family, ensure that they're safe, give them an open space if they have a problem to tell you so that you can also let others know if something's going on.
Do we know as yet what the response rate of the police has been? Because it is one thing to report a case of gender-based violence. It's another for the police to actually respond and investigate. And what happens to the victim?
Look, the police have been responding to cases that have been going through to the GBV command center. Unfortunately, the realities are the bulk of GBV cases don't get reported even in the first place because, again, the reporting mechanisms are flawed by default. So we do not have the current stats of how many survivors have been able to report effectively cases being opened. We do know that currently cases that were opened prior lockdown have been postponed and perpetrators have been let out on bail, and those perpetrators are going out and intimidating those survivors to drop cases. So that has come through to us in terms of information. In terms of what other responses are available, at the moment, I think what we need to do is basically strengthen our community mechanisms. Try by all means. I know that the UN has made a call to people to start WhatsApp groups or support lines so that survivors can find safe spaces for them to report. So alternative methods like technology are what we have at our disposal at the moment when people are supposed to stay inside.
And safe space for some of these victims?
Shelters are still available. If you phone through to the GBV command center, shelters are available. Some shelters have said that they'll only let in survivors who have tested negative for corona, and that corona test isn't rapid, so there are some of those glitches in the system. I know that the GBV interim steering committee has ensured that the government makes temporary sheltering available. So hotels, etc., that are not currently being used are used as temporary shelters for survivors of GBV. And also people have opened up their homes. Private individuals have said, you can bring survivors to my home, people who own B&Bs, etc. So it's great to speak to NGOs that operate in your area or community-based organizations and ask them for help, reach out for help. That's the message I definitely want to lay out.
Mandisa, later on this evening, we expect the president to address the nation and announce probably stimulus packages, but also social relief measures. What is it as Rise Up Against Gender Violence that you would love to see?
Well, we would like to see an end to the lockdown, but obviously that's not possible until we can ensure that we have flattened the curve and we support measures that are taken by the president. We definitely want to see some kind of stimulus package for women who are entrepreneurs, women who are working in informal sector. We've seen a lot of people, specifically those who work in informal sector, street vendors, etc., have suffered really badly due to this coronavirus outbreak. The food pack dispersal and the parcel situation is not working. People are waiting in queues for food. Food banks are not working efficiently. So essentially, we need some kind of, if they could possibly assist with raising the child support grant, that would definitely help. The disability grant, definitely. I know as an organization, we've also been providing meal packs to survivors of violence, and we find people in the most deplorable conditions who haven't even eaten to 2 to 3 days. So definitely we need to see some kind of leadership when it comes to what are we going to do economically with people right now who have absolutely no means of income and can't really support themselves on the means that they have?
And that is the true question. And hopefully later on this evening, the president will have an answer to that. Thank you so much, Mandisa Khanyile, who is the director of Rise Up Against Gender-Based Violence.